Hey guys, this is Yo at the Hookin Hut, and welcome back to video 2 of how to create a knit design pattern. And what I'm showing you today is my quick way of coming up with a new pattern idea and how fast it can be if you rely on a master pattern, which is what everything basically is made off of anyway, and getting inspiration from different places and stuff. And going through books and whatever can make it just really a lot faster if you want it to be. So anyways, it just depends on how fast you like to work. I started out wanting to do this one fast, and the more I got into it, I was like, oh, this is fun. It was like, oh, goodness sake, you just spent the entire morning playing with collar. It's like, yeah, I did. I had fun. So anyway, so I'm going to take you through all the steps that I personally use and the tools that I used this time. I showed you my tools yesterday, and I'll show you which tools I chose to use for working on my pattern this time. So the first thing is you want to look for some sort of inspiration and do some sketches of what you want your hat to look like. And you don't have to be good at drawing, just, scribble a little messy piece on there and don't worry about it. You're just trying to get your head functioning and focused towards hats. So anyway, I have a Pinterest board that stays hidden, and I create hidden ones where I can just, I don't know why having a hidden board just helps me focus a lot more sometimes, and I'll use that and get some ideas through it. Or I do a lot of Google searches because Pinterest doesn't have everything. And I love going through Creative Knitting Magazine, because Creative Knitting Magazine is just the greatest magazine out there for knitting. And then I go through books, and I like to go to the library. And one of the fun books I found this time on hats was Hip Knit Hats, and it's incredible. It's got some really super cool stuff in here, and it just takes you through everything from A to Z. There's all kinds of hats. It teaches you how to felt a hat using beads in hats. Just all kinds of creative ideas for it. So it's like the go-to place if you want to know about hat design and stuff. And it even has this nifty little chart of picking what type of hat to make for whatever kind of face you have. Pretty cool, huh? So, if you have a wide face and high cheekbones, it gives you 3 hat ideas. Heart-shaped face and a pointy chin, 3 hat ideas. And a long, narrow face, 3 hat ideas. And it gets into hat vocabulary, gives you a neat little thing there. But, there's just... It's just a really fun book to keep going through, with all kinds of unique ideas and everything for making hats. And so this is one of the ways that I decide which books I'm going to get. I go to the library, I check them out, and it's like if I really take a liking to the book, I have to go on Amazon and buy it. So that's what I'm doing with this one. Going on Amazon and buying it. Which is also what I did with this one. I got the first edition at the library, and even though I really liked this book, I wanted to see what their other books were like. And then when I saw this, it was like, oh, I got to get the new updated version of it. So I did, because there's more, master patterns in it. So I love it. But anyways, so where I got the inspiration for this one was when I was going through this. I should have kept hold of the book, huh? When I was going through this one, at the back it has a Fair Isle Winter headband, and that's what it looks like. And I fell in love with the pattern. I fell in love with the collars. I loved the brown in the back. I loved using the spring green as a trim going around it. They crocheted the trim going around the headband, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do a crochet trim around my hat, but I really do like that. as far as making a hat goes instead of the headband. But I didn't really like their colors, because with their colors they had blue, gray, red, and gold. I didn't want blue, gray, red, and gold. So what I decided to go with was, I will show you here in a second. Remember I mentioned yesterday about using 3x5 cards? These are the colors that I decided that I would play with based on, bada bing, bada bim, bada boom, my color wheel. I knew that I wanted to use orange because I like orange. I wanted some sort of orange in there. So what I did was, oh, can't do that way. So I went with red orange, and I looked at all the very different places, colors that would go with it, which is anything all along through here goes with it. And then it was like, okay, then what about orange? What else choices do I have? And I went for it. And then I went with yellow orange. It was like, well, let's see what else I have to play with. And that's how I ended up with these colors. So all the colors on this one are Red Heart Super Saver. And this is coral, turquoise, minty green, light brown, and orchid. And then on this side, I snuck a Lion brand woolies in cocoa, and what is it? Yeah, cocoa. That's what I thought it was. And then this is back to being Red Heart Super Saver lime green, or not lime green, spring green. My favorite green in the Red Heart Super Saver line. Okay, so these are the ones I decided that I was going to work with. So what I did after that was I just had to do some sketches up, and I wanted to get a good look of how those collars might work on the chart based off the chart that's right here. So I redid the chart in this book, Knit Your Own Designs in 5 Easy Steps, because all these pages of knitting graph paper, and I did up some sketches, and I kept playing with them and then thinking about them, and when I was finished it was like, you know what, I don't like anything that I've drawn on here. So let's just take the general idea of what I had sketched into my graph paper, and we'll see what happens in real life when I make them. So in order to do the swatch, I had to decide, okay, which size needle am I going to use to make this design in? And it was like, okay, all right, I got an idea of it. I'm going to use my number 9s, my number 9 clovers, because number 9 clover, it's faster. It's number 9 16-inch, by the way. And I like using bamboo. So those are the ones I chose. A lot of times, sometimes I'll do a 7, sometimes I'll do an 8, but I really like to use my 9s because, you know, like I said, it gets it over with. So there we got with that one. And so I started doing what I call sloppy swatch. And sloppy swatch is just taking a little piece of the pattern itself, of the chart pattern, and seeing what happens when I combine the different colors. So I went with the light brown first, and I wanted to see what would happen when I made it. And what I found was my sloppy little swatch had enough color in it that I could see that I was going to fall in love with it. And I had the orchid down below, and I really liked that orchid. Something about the orchid on that light brown and then topped off with the coral and the turquoise, it works for me. Probably wouldn't work for you, but it does for me. So I sat and I was like, okay, I like it, but let's see what would happen if my main color wasn't light brown and my main color was a darker brown. And if you're seeing this looking really funny, it's because when you go to create a swatch in the round, because if you make these a hat on circular needles, and you're going to do Fair Isle, you need to do the swatch on circular needles. And what happens is you end up with this hunk of junky mess in the back. So let me show you how that works. So let's say, you know how on straight needles, that when you go to do a swatch, you're just, this way, flip the needle around, blah, 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 do it again. Switch the needles, it's just back and forth like that. It's not a big deal. With knitting a swatch in the round, it is a big deal, because you've somehow got to create a fake backside, as though you're going in a circle. So all you do is go like this. Here, let me pull this down just a little bit more. All you're going to do is create a fake circle by going like that. So you'll take this, you've got your loop there. Now what I do is I usually hold this up against hold it against the needle to give me a bit of stability with that one string. And I knit a strand, I knit a couple, and then I just go ahead and flob my way across, because suddenly I got really nervous. Okay, so gonna get across here. Oh, on the screen it looks like I'm knitting really fast. That's cool. Okay, and once you get it to right here, you're going to slide it all the way over to this needle and do the exact same thing. Just hook it up, decide how long you want that little loop in the back, and then start again by just going back that direction with it. And being careful not to pull too hard on that strand, because otherwise it'll make your pull your swatch together and it won't stretch the way it needs to. I did that on one of them because I wasn't paying attention. I was fighting with the cats at that point. So that's how you do it, and that's how you keep your stockinette stitch going across the front the way it should. Going across the front the way it should. Okay, the bottom part that I did right here, this is what happens when you do things. If you tried to do a swatch on circulars the same way you would on straight needles, but for doing a hat you need to do a circular needle swatch, and that's gets you this and ugly little danglers in the back there. So that's that. Now back on point again. So I decided after that, I was like, okay, let's try one of the other little charts that I did up, and let's put it on a darker yarn. So that's when we went with the Lion brand Cocoa. And there's that. And because it's dark, I needed to have a brighter collar running along the bottom. So I put the lime green down here with the coral, and then the blue running straight across. But the coral will be the main part. And I really, really liked that. I really liked it. There was something about the way the collars went with that cocoa colored yarn. And so then it was like, okay, let's just try one more. Because I hadn't done anything with the minty color yarn yet. So I thought, okay, well, I don't want the minty color on the light brown, because it's just gonna kind of like fade right out. So let's put it on the dark brown. And that's what I did. So I did up an ugly swatch and I put it there, and I fell in love with it. And it was like, oh crud, you realize what you've just done. You have 3 hats to make now. Yes, I am making all 3 hats. Can't help myself. I love hats. So I'll probably end up having to put one of them up for sale, maybe 2 of them up for sale, maybe none of the above. But anyway, so one is going to have a hint of lavender. The light one will have a hint of lavender and coral and turquoise. And then the others will be turquoise. It will be the main color with green running along the bottom. And I'm not sure about what color I'm going to have run along the bottom of this one, because I didn't put it on. I was just more or less sampling with this. And I may not put anything there. So, just depends. But anyway, so that's how I ended up on that one. And that's what happens when you do swatches, folks. You get to playing around with it, and next thing you know, you fall in love with what you made, and you decide, yeah, I've got to have one in that color, I've got to have one in that color, and one in the other one. So that's where I am on it. So with the swatches, you know, some people make really big swatches. In fact, a lot of people do pretty big swatches. I've done this so much, like I said before, that I don't need to have a large swatch to know what I'm going to like, because I'm very visual, and I can take a little crappy piece of swatch like this, and I can see the whole thing as a hat, exactly as it'll be when it's done. So, you know, there I go with that. But this is what I'm going to have on it for my cards. And so then I'll put, in pencil, I'm going to pencil in what hat this is. And at the end, I'll figure out names for the hats. But I want to have this, you know, penciled in there, and then I'll connect the two of these with a paper clip, and I'll stick them in a file box so that, you know, I don't lose, you know, what I was working on when I was doing these. And sometimes I've taken these and I've stuck them in a plastic bag along with the swatches, but right now I'm out of plastic bags. But anyway, so there's there, and that's that. If you've made a large enough swatch, you can go ahead and pull out your, definitely a larger swatch in this. You should at least have a 4x4 inch swatch to get your gauge down, because gauge changes as you're going along. And don't do it this way. You know, make sure you just use one color yarn and go across doing a stockinette stitch. Okay, a stockinette stitch in the round, like I showed you to do with these, you know, with it coming across the back like that. And then go ahead and get your gauge swatch made up that way, and take measurements in 3 different places on your swatch. And we'll get into that in the next video, which will be Monday, because I don't work on the weekends. I love having my weekends. But anyways, so in the next video, we'll get back to that. And we'll take care of swatches, or not swatches, we'll get on to gauge, we'll look at gauge, and then we'll get into writing up your pattern before, emphasis on before, we actually make a hat itself. So, and by then, hopefully, I'll have figured out fully what I'm going to do with the hat. Because I was hoping I would have it by the time I did up this video, but I thought, I still don't know what kind of brim I want. And I don't know if I want ear flaps. I might want ear flaps when I'm done, and have little danglies coming off of it, and little pom-poms. I don't know. I still haven't gotten to that point yet. So, yeah, and you don't always come up with it all at once. You know, sometimes when I'm working on a hat, and I'll get up towards the crown, I still haven't figured out what I was going to do. Like, for instance, with this one, I ended up finally just going with a rounded top and putting a pom-pom on. And I was tempted to just go straight up as a square, or a rectangle, and have a pom-pom on both sides. So I'm still not sure with this one what I'm going to do. I have an idea. I may go with crocheted loops. I'm not sure yet. So, but I do want to do something different and unique with it that I haven't done on any other hat that I've made. So we'll see you Monday. If you want to use this time to create your own hat pattern, maybe you found something from the tips that it's useful, and I'll put everything that I've written down, a little sheet on my blog over at thehookinhut.com, and link is going to be down below, and click there, and I'll have the notes from today on there, so you can go and you know, copy it, put it in Evernote or something. So we'll see you then. Have a great weekend.